Welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. Well, I actually don't have any real farm news this week because instead of being here at the farm, I took a few days away to Creswick in regional Victoria. My family has a holiday house there by the golf course. It's a little outdoor area with a deck, so Wade and I could sit out there during the day, just take in the quiet and the view across the golf course. I did a little bit of knitting, which I'll show you shortly, but not a lot. I did just spend time just being quiet and going for lots of little short walks with Wade, which was really enjoyable. I didn't used to think that he was good on the lead, but he was really fantastic. And we went out for quite a few little short walks across the fairways. He enjoyed all the smells and getting to explore. He was exhausted every time we came back, and he was exhausted when we got home, but he really did enjoy it, and it was nice to be able to do that with him. In the evenings on the golf course, there were so many kangaroos. And they weren't all that scared, really. They would sort of stop grazing and look up and thump their tails a little bit. And if you didn't get too close, they would just continue doing what they were doing. So it was nice to sort of walk in amongst them and just enjoy that sort of sunset evening time. Since I was in Creswick and there is the Creswick Woolen Mills, I decided that I needed to visit as a yarny person. They have a museum which shows the whole process of the spinning, from the fibre and carding all the way through to spinning the yarn and then weaving it into the fabric and blankets that they make. So it was quite interesting to see that whole process. I also enjoyed just wandering up and down the street of Creswick. It's a beautiful old town with some really lovely buildings. And as I said, the rest of the time I pretty much just sat and relaxed, which was really nice and different to being on the farm and doing chores and doing regular sort of farm and work stuff. I also picked up a few things that I had purchased online through a knitting group. A lady who lived close by to Creswick was selling a dress form and an old spinning wheel. So now I have these two new things, not so new, but new to me. So the dress form, it's a proper dressmaker's form, which you can alter the size and everything properly. And so my sister might use it for some sewing as well. But my plan is to have it here in the shed, probably put a cute little skirt on it and use it for displaying my knitwear. So putting shawls and ponchos and jumpers and things like that on it so that I can show some examples. And it'll also be really great for taking finished object photos. The other thing that I picked up was a new spinning wheel. Well, actually an old spinning wheel, but new to me and a different style than I have used before. This one is a Saxony style double drive band with a single pedal, and the Majacraft Rose that I have is a double treadle Scotch tensioned wheel, so a very different way of spinning altogether. So I've got a lot of learning to do now that I've got a new wheel, and hopefully I don't get confused and do the wrong kind of process on the other wheel. So I had to fix the drive band. It had one on, but I got some new thick cotton and put that on. I actually ended up putting two drive bands on instead of one large one that crossed over. I sort of had a look around on YouTube and saw some tutorials and thought that so that I could spin in either direction without having to change the band over, it might be better to have two, and I was able to tension them better that way as well. Hopefully that will work. The knob for tensioning the mother of all is not attached properly. It needs another screw. I'm still able to move it, but the knob is not functional, so I just have to take the knob off and spin the spool underneath. So that's okay for the time being, but I'll see if I can actually fix it properly. But apart from that, it's working now. I had an issue to begin with. One of the bobbins had a little stopper on top. I'll go get it. So the bobbin that was on the wheel when I got it has this extra piece on here, whereas all of the other bobbins are flat. And this one was on, the one with the knob bit, and I was trying to get it to spin, and it wasn't spinning by itself because this piece was rubbing up against the whirl, and it's sort of rubber, and it was causing friction, and it was stopping, and it wasn't spinning. So I couldn't get any uptake onto the bobbin. So I was getting spin, but then I couldn't actually feed the yarn on. I kept trying different things with the tension, and that didn't work. Then I realized this, put one of these flat bobbins on, and now it's working, and I've actually been able to spin some yarn on it, which is really, really exciting. Obviously, I've got a long way to go to learn properly how to spin on a different wheel. I'm still learning on my original wheel, but it's nice to have a wheel down here in the shed and to start to learn more about spinning wheels, because it's really interesting and another craft that I'm really starting to get quite passionate about. Now, I did do a little bit of research on this wheel. It's called an Etoril Melba. And actually, so it's named after Dame Nellie Melba, who lived in this area, and it was made in a factory in Croydon, which is right near where I used to live and grew up, and very close to the Yarra Valley. So it's kind of like this wheel has come home in a way. Now, these wheels were manufactured there until around 1987. So this wheel is at least 33 years old, but it's probably older than that. I'm going to have a bit more of a look at it and see if there's any markings or anything underneath it that might give an indication of when it was actually made. So it's kind of nice to have a bit of an antique wheel. Well, now I'm calling myself antique by saying that. But a very different take on a wheel to the more modern wheel that has just been recently manufactured that I have, to this sort of older, more handcrafted version of a wheel. I wound up the skein of mistake yarn. Still calling it mistake yarn. I have to come up with a proper name if I'm going to continue to use it. And I have crocheted a sample square, which I'm really loving. I think it looks really cool. The colours have turned out really well. Nice even distribution, and I really like the pattern. So now I'm going to knit a sample square as well to see what it looks like knit up. And from there, I'm going to decide if it's going to be something that's going to be a regular, or perhaps I will tweak it a little bit to create a brand new set of colours, because as I said, this is actually colours that I've already used in a different skein, but they have come out looking quite different. The weather has been much cooler this week, so I've been a little bit inspired to start thinking about some autumn colours. So I went back through my recipes and I have dyed up 2 different batches of some autumn inspired colours on some DK or 8-ply yarn. They're currently just finishing up setting, and I'm going to rinse them this afternoon and hang them out to dry. So I don't have them to show you finished just yet, so I'll have those next week to show. I'm thinking that they're going to turn out looking fairly similar. There were 2 different recipes that I've done at different times with slightly different techniques, and I'm just going to compare them and see what I think. And I might end up retiring one of them if they look too similar, and then try and experiment to create a brand new autumn colour to go along with the old one that stays. But I will show you those probably on Instagram during the week, and also next week right here. And now on to crafting. I finished the first of my latest pair of socks, pink and grey stripes. And as you can see, I've done a little detail there on the colour change. I slipped every second stitch as soon as the colour started to change for a full round, just so that when I am pairing up my socks, I can match them up easily without having to do too much comparison. So I try and do something slightly different with each pair of socks if it's in the same yarn, just so that I can tell them all apart. Now, I have not cast on the second one yet because I need these sock needles to knit the sample on the mistake yarn. I do have another pair of these, but I do not know where they are. I often lose them. I know they'll be safe somewhere in a knitting bag and I'll find them at some point. But until then, I'm going to knit the sample and then go back to knit the socks. No real progress on my jumper. The sleeves are now at the same point, and they're probably to about there on my wrist, I think. I need to try it on again and 100% decide that the sleeves are going to be okay to start doing the color stripes at that point. And I'm a little bit indecisive about whether they are going to be long enough or not. So I think that's why I've been putting it off. So there isn't that much left to do on each of the sleeves, but I just have to make a decision about whether I start the purple stripes or continue a bit more of the green before I start. But I do have a new cast on, and this is what I worked on mostly in Creswick. I knit on the socks and I knit on this new project as well. It's called the Irma hat, and I queued it last year, and when I re-looked at my queue at the start of this year, I kept it on, and I only put like 5 things on my queue. So it's something that I have wanted to knit, I just haven't gotten around to it. I've chosen to knit it in this green Corriedale silk, which I had tried to knit a jumper out of a couple of times, and the way that the yarn was pulling and flashing I didn't like in the jumper, but I really do love the colors and the yarn is really beautiful. It's by Colleen's Crafts and she does amazing yarn, and I'm really enjoying knitting with it, and I think that this pattern is really doing it justice. So it's lines of decreases that form this sort of like arrow zigzag pattern. It's quite easy to knit, and being slightly thicker yarn, it's been fun to do as opposed to doing the small sock yarn stuff that I've been doing lately. I'm thinking that I might then adapt this pattern to put onto some mitts and maybe a cowl as well, to have a whole matching set. I'll see. I might not want to knit the pattern again straight away, but I do like to sort of have a matching set of things, and I've done that before where I've found a stitch pattern that I really like, and then I've modified it to put it on to other accessories. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.